30 years in the making, and certainly the last 6.5 years that I've been a part of this story. It's been a long road, to say the least, to get to this place, but we are very, very excited about the next 6 weeks and the long-term future of this beautiful theater. Today we are formally announcing a partnership with the Friends of the Loews, and after years of litigation and a long road to get here, we are issuing an RFP jointly to find a operator of this theater. And part of that will be to complete the original mission of the Friends of the Loews, which is to restore this theater, to protect this theater, and make it as magnificent it was when it opened in the 1920s. A little bit about this theater is that it opened in 1929 and at a cost of $2 million back then, which was an astronomical amount of money. And there's only a handful of theaters like this across the country, and even less that still exist in any sort of resemblance of what's here today. Their sister theater was renovated in Brooklyn several years ago under the Bloomberg administration, and it's been brought back to its original glory, and we look forward to the same fate here at the historic landmark Loews Theater. So before I speak about kind of the road forward, I wanted to bring up Colin, and I'd be remiss if I didn't publicly say thank you to Colin and Patty for their advocacy over the last several decades. This would not be here today if it wasn't for the Friends of the Loews and their leadership. There were many times where there were proposals to knock down this theater and build residential development, and it was the community that came together that decided to protect it, and through sweat and hard work, they've gotten to the place where it is today. But it's not lost on anybody that there's a lot more work to do to get it to a place where we can truly showcase world-class acts on a regular basis throughout the whole year and fill this with 3,000 people. So we're excited about the future. We're thankful for the work that Friends of the Loews have done, and I'm going to turn it over to Colin to say a couple words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, you set it up for me very well by talking about the community and what was accomplished here. It was in the August of 1986 that this place showed supposedly the last picture show. A movie called, I think it was One Crazy Summer, which might have been apropos considering that with that, this place was supposedly going to be torn down. Now, a few people in the city didn't like that idea, including then freshman Councilman Bill O'Day, who I don't think is with us today. He's a freeholder today, and he's on the board of Friends of the Loews. And he had tried to get some movement going to save this place, but it wasn't having a lot of success. And by the following February and March, the Jersey Journal, New York Times, everybody was saying this place was doomed. A few of us living in the city didn't like that idea. We thought it was foolish to tear this building down, and frankly, at that time, tearing it down was the city policy for improving Journal Square, and we disagreed. So we went to a planning board meeting and met a few other folks who felt like we did, and the organization called Friends of the Loews came together. Now, it's been a very long road from there to here. If all we had accomplished was saving this landmark, I think that would have been certainly enough, but really we did more. We reclaimed part of Jersey City, Jersey City's legacy, and we also proved some things about our city. We reclaimed, and begun to reclaim, Journal Square as a place people want to come and spend some time and have a good time. If you know anything about Jersey City, you know that's what Journal Square was for decades, and with this theater, it is working its way back, plus a lot of other development, including, I have to give a plug to the Journal Square Lounge next door. They provided the food and refreshments we have, and that's another sign of what happens when you have a theater, you have a restaurant, you have people coming together. So we're working to reclaim Journal Square along with all the development in the square. But we also proved to ourselves that Jersey City is the kind of place where, when we began, everyone said, oh, no one will care. But a lot of people did. No one will come out. A lot of people came out. The city government will never listen. The city government listened and changed its policy. And then when there was not enough funding to really get this place open in any way at all, it had been closed and ready for demolition, we hit upon the idea of asking the community to roll up their sleeves and volunteer, and not just to sweep, but to do some pretty heavy construction. And lots of people said I was crazy, and I probably thought I was crazy too. But we did it. They did it. And we continue to do that. They continue to work on the building and continue to present programming. And that's one of the things we've done. We've given Jersey City and proved that Jersey City wants, needs, and enjoys a variety of programming, arts programming, entertainment programming, ethnic programming, affordable programming. And all of that, as the mayor said, brought together a community. And this building is and what was, is and will be many things. Part of its story is that community and the continuing role of that community in programming and supporting it and taking care of it. The other part of the story is now bringing in a major promoter and having the kinds of large shows and the kind of restoration that will make this at once our Beacon Theater, our Carnegie Hall, and our little community theater, all in one. And that's really a wonderful thing, I think. And it also is going to prove that you can do that you can bring together nonprofit arts interests with commercial arts, commercial business, commercial show business interests. We've worked a long time with the mayor, the business administrator, and other people in the city to put together a plan that we are confident will do just that, allow us to have everything we need here. I would be remiss if I also don't point out another long-term supporter of the theater and historian of Jersey City, Councilman Rich Boggiano here. A few of my friends of Loew's volunteers are in the audience. I just want to thank them. And I want to thank Mayor Fulop. He alluded to some disagreements we've had in the past. I think it is a measure of the dedication of people to an idea and to a goal, that they can disagree strongly and have had difficulty in their relationship, but work through it and find a way to work together to accomplish their goal. And that's what we've done. So I thank Mayor Fulop. I also want to recognize Bill Loew, the person I told you about, who was here when they closed this theater and trying to get interest in saving it back in 1986. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you at some shows here.
I want to invite up the Councilman for Ward C, Rich Boggiano, who also serves as our unofficial historian for Jersey City.
I just want to say thank you to the mayor, to Brian, Patty, and Colin, because it's been a long fight. I started coming into this theater in 1970. Everybody that went on a date came to the Lowey's Theater. And I got to tell you, right now, probably standing out here, if you believe in spirits, Frank Sinatra is standing right out here with the Three Stooges. Because Frank Sinatra loved this building. And he's probably so proud that it's being preserved. Colin, Mayor, and the rest of you, you did a great job. Let's get it fixed up. Let's have professional theater here also. And let's make this the palace that it once was back in the 1960s, 50s, and 40s. So thank you.
Freholder Bill O'Day, who's also a board member of the Friends of the Lowews, who helped us contract and negotiate with the community group here.
Thank you, Mayor. To echo a little bit of what Richie said, I grew up about 7 or 8 blocks from here, so as a kid I often went to movies here. They used to have great movies and Christmas parties for kids that the local political leaders would host, which is one of the things that kind of got me interested in politics as a kid. I remember being here for the last film showed when it was a multiplex with the late great political columnist for the Jersey Journal, Peter Weiss. It was one of the Friday the 13th. There were so many of them and they were all so terrible I don't really remember which one it was. But then in 1987, as a councilman and a member of the planning board, I remember the battle we had to save this theater. We had to override the mayor, of course not my good friend Mayor Fulop, who I believe back then was maybe in the 3rd or 4th grade, which is frightening to think about from my perspective. But we literally had to override the mayor's veto when we adopted a redevelopment plan that would not allow a developer to take this building in. Here we are 33 years later. The FOL, of which I've had the honor of sitting on that board for many years, has struggled to keep the doors open and has been successful in doing so when many other similar like theaters have not continued to survive. And I think today is a very, very exciting day because now, more than 3 decades later, with the strong support of the councilman for the area, with the leadership of Mayor Fulop and Brian Platt, they're ready to go out and bring in a partner to run and operate and undertake a large investment, a large capital investment into this theater to make it a performing arts center that, trust me, will more than rival the PNC Arts Center in Newark. Because what this building has is beauty and history that you'll never be able to replicate. So I'm excited because I think that this will continue to be an impetus to the growth and development of this Journal Square area, but really to an ongoing rebirth of performances here, for artists here. The excitement of what's going to be able to go on here, I think is something that's amazing. And I've been around 33 years dealing with, I know I'm going to be around long enough to see that come to fruition. And again, the mayor and the council and everyone has been amazing getting it done. So thank you very much.
Okay, before I bring up Brian Platt, who's the business administrator, to talk a little bit about the mechanics of the RFP, I wanted to just walk through why we've been so adamant about getting the RFP out and going through litigation, going through some political tough times here, what I thought was for the better good of Journal Square and Jersey City overall. When I first came into office, I thought that this was a tremendous asset, as you can see, that was underutilized. I thought the Friends of the Loews did a phenomenal job in keeping the doors open when theaters were closing, and they served a purpose with regards to outreach to the community and making sure that the community still knew that existed. And with very, very little funding, they were able to create regular programming here. But if you looked at this building and you walked in here for 5 minutes, you would see that there was much, much more that was possible in this facility. And so we started to think about what it would cost and how we would go about getting world-class acts in Jersey City on a regular basis here in Journal Square. And the reason I felt that that was important is because Jersey City didn't have a center for the arts like this, number one. And number two was that Journal Square is a priority for us to restore it back to being the heart of the city, to being the place that everybody comes to, whether it's for restaurants, whether it's for nightlife, whether it's for a show. And this was crucial to all of that. We changed all of our incentive programs to get development happening in this part of the city. And you see that most of the development right now has migrated away from downtown, actually, to the biggest projects are actually here in the heart of Journal Square. You don't need to walk very far to see cranes going up. Next projects will be directly adjacent to this on either side. There's a project behind this. We're in litigation with the Kushners across the street. You have the other Kushner project, which we have another tower that's scheduled to be built over there. And then, of course, you have the Port Authority that's put out an RFP to transform their entire facility. So when you think about what's possible here, you're going to have density, but you didn't really have culture and arts. So the city made an investment in purchasing a building across the street called the Pathside Building, which will be a future home to the Jersey City Museum. And we're going through the process with cultural affairs on that front, and that is moving forward. And then across the street where we're standing today stands this magnificent theater, which has endless potential. Now, if you look at the entertainment world today, you certainly know that there are a few big players that control the entire market. And that's an unfortunate circumstance for most people, but it's a reality of the world today. And if we wanted to play in that market, we had to bring in a major operator. That was just the reality of how this would work. And at the same time, looking at the council's financing and the city's finances, we didn't have the money by ourselves to renovate this with $40 million of our own dollars in order to get it to where we want it to be. To have year-round programming, you need to restore the air conditioning here, you need to redo the heat here, you need to make it ADA compliant, you need to do some work on the backside for big shows that they could bring in the trucks and load and unload. So there's a lot of work that needed to be done, and that's a big capital investment. So what we're doing today is we're going out for a very, very short window RFP of 6 weeks. And in 6 weeks, we're very, very comfortable that we're going to get responses from some major operators that have a presence worldwide. And then we're going to make a deal with whoever is the best one that's willing to work with the city and the Friends of the Lowews. Through this process over the last 6 years, we've become very close with the Friends of the Lowews, and they are incorporated in that RFP to make sure that the community component that has made this special for the last 20, 30 years is protected. So there are days set aside. There is a role for the Friends of the Lowews. We're going to make sure that there is community programming that is affordable, but at the same time, we want to restore this to be one of the best theaters in the entire country. And as I think Colin and Billy said earlier, if you look around this place, there are no theaters that have this sort of presence. It just doesn't exist. It really takes you back into an era that is long, long, long forgotten. So we're excited about this today. We're very, very thankful for the partnership with the Friends of the Lowews, and we're excited to finally be turning the page and starting the next chapter of the historic landmark Lowe's Theater. And I'm going to turn it over to Brian Platt, who's going to walk through the mechanics, who's been instrumental in negotiating this and getting us to this point today.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everybody. So I just want to say that it's been a pleasure of mine to partner with the Friends of the Lowews and build relationships with the group over so many years, trying to make sure that our collective visions are achieved here. So what you'll see from the RFP that is being released today is a request for proposals for a single entity to both restore the facility to full operating capacity and also preserve the historic elements of the building, but also for the management of the facility, the commercial management of the facility, meaning we are very much looking for an entity to come in to bring national and international performances and touring acts to provide a source of entertainment and a destination here for Jersey City, while also setting aside and promoting and preserving the community component programming that the Friends of the Lowews has put on over many, many years. And it's important to note that even though the facility is not quite at full capacity, the Friends of the Lowews have done a lot to make sure that whatever capacity is here is utilized to the fullest. And we've got a lot of great programming from them. We want to make sure that continues. We want to give the ability for not just Friends of the Lowews to expand that programming, but for other community groups in and around Jersey City to make sure that they have a destination and a facility to do so. The funding component is going to be sort of complicated in the sense that it won't be a single funding source. We're asking respondents to provide some contribution to the project itself through a lease payment or other payments that they may propose in the proposal. We are hoping, our vision is not to have to spend many taxpayer dollars, if any, on this project, even though we think it's a tens of millions of dollars of a project here. There are lots of alternate funding sources that we will be seeking to access for this, such as historic tax credits, new market tax credits, you name it, the list goes on. That's pretty much the summary of the document. It will be posted shortly on the JCRA website, jcra.org.
Any questions? Comments? Yes.
Why now? Why at this moment in the middle of the pandemic do you guys decide to put out this RFP? It seems like since the whole live industry that right now is shut down, why now, and how do you expect that to?
Let me say, I think that the pandemic, if anything, has reinforced the commitment that we have here to different types of social services, arts, culture, and investments in our community. Even though they may not be happening at this very moment, we are more committed than ever. So whether you look at the Aero Farms announcement, whether you look at our Bayfront affordable housing announcement, whether you look at the investment in this theater, these are commitments that we think to moving the city forward that touch every corner of Jersey City, and we're more committed now than ever to do that. We think that this theater will ultimately be functioning again with 3,000 people here on a regular basis, and we feel comfortable with that, and we think it's worthwhile to invest our dollars into that. Yeah, Al.
What percentage of time will be for the community?
You want to talk about that, Brian?
Yeah. So we're doing it not necessarily based on time, but number of days. So we're setting aside a certain number of days for Friends of the Lowews and their community programming, and also requiring that any respondent to the RFP also provides a minimum number of days across a wide range of cultural and performance categories. So we're not just going to ask that it's only comedy shows. It's going to be comedy, it's going to be musical, it's going to be theater, dance, in addition to the big name international touring acts.
Is that percentage nailed down? Number of
Yeah,
days?
let me say that we looked at the previous RFPs, looked at the number of days that the Lowe's did the theater, used the theater in years prior. So that was kind of a baseline. And then when we talked to management companies before, they felt fairly comfortable in escalating that number, being that even if they bring in national touring acts, it's not happening 7 days a week. If it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and not even every week, it would be on a more regular basis, but they felt comfortable with working with the Friends of the Lowe's and giving additional days. So the original RFP had the number of days that I think were set aside. What number was that? Do you remember? Do you remember, Colin? How many? It was 20 originally, because that's the number of events that they did prior. And then when we originally had conversations with management companies, they felt comfortable in increasing that. So I think it'll be a fairly large number, because our goal is to get an operator who will bring in national acts, and that's not going to happen every day or every week, but it will happen on a regular basis, and all the other days are going to go towards community events. And that's kind of been the understanding for everybody.
How much of theater is actually going to be preserved? Because past proposals had said there would be changes in the back, and they would preserve this part. But is there a wider scope now?
You want to talk about changes?
So for the most part, the changes that we're going to allow and that we encourage are related to expanding functionality of the facility. We're going to try and preserve as much of what you see as possible. So for example, loading of equipment is a difficulty right now. That's something that we're going to have to address, and it might require some additional renovations in the back. The restroom facilities are not sufficient. The facility doesn't meet ADA requirements at this point, fire code requirements, so there are going to be things like that. But for the most part, you're not going to see a lot of substantial changes to the facade and to the historic elements of the building.
So I think what you're remembering was the absolutely awful idea when they were going to tear the place down, but talked about preserving the lobby and putting an office building where the auditorium is. That is not what we're talking about here. And I asked to make this statement because Friends of the Lowe's, I think our foundational thought was preservation. In the next moment, we realized preserve a theater, it's good for the arts and the community, but the first thought was preservation. Our involvement in this partnership is because the city and we are committed to preserving this building. As the mayor and business administrator said, there will be updates for technical and for patron comfort, but this building, it's a protected landmark in New Jersey, and what we're about and why we're so happy to be partnering with the city, what they're about now is preserving all of this. So no one should walk away thinking this is not going to be a preserved building.
Al, it's going to be a theater and a performing arts center. Time structure. No, that's okay.
We're coming back for Friday the 13th?
Attached to the issue I made. Because there are theaters right now in New Jersey that are concerned that they are not going to reopen. That it is financial crisis that they're facing is very, very real. Do you absolutely believe this is the right time?
I'm 100% convinced.
Are you hearing from operators? Telling you this is a good path to go?
So we've spoken to operators, major operators, and there is an excitement to put in a proposal for this theater. This theater is different than some of the other theaters around New Jersey, whereas it sits on top of the busiest transit terminal in the state of New Jersey in Journal Square. and in an area of the city that is seeing a significant amount of development, and a city that has embraced arts and culture and is 1 mile away from New York City. So we have unique character traits here with regards to this city, and we feel that this is a commitment that we wanted to make 6 years ago, and we've been working through it, and the current environment doesn't change our commitment to arts and culture. And facilities like this, both from a community standpoint and from a tourism standpoint, are going to be crucial for the future of the city, regardless of the current state that we're in at this very moment. Yeah.
Mayor, having a world-class entertainment center is one thing, but if you're going to attract people to it, you need ancillary things for people to go to, like bars and restaurants,
Yep.
etc. So what are the plans for the rest of the square? And also, as you know, NJCU is busy developing their own performing arts center, Joffrey Ballet,
Yep.
and so on. Are going to be competition with that?
So we incentivized and we gave the most aggressive tax abatements and RABs in order to create that Joffrey Ballet and the entire West Side development. And we view that as a different type of theater with different character traits. This is special because of its location and its history and its size. Very different than what we have there, or the theaters that are currently under development, which are several smaller black box theaters downtown. With regards to restaurants, bars, coffee shops, you need core anchor institutions in order to be able to attract those. And this will serve that purpose. If you think even about Newark Avenue and some of the restaurants that we've seen there over the last 3-4 years, that pedestrian plaza has been able to attract a lot of those restaurants because it's been a destination place, and we've seen more and more restaurants increase in that environment. Unfortunately, here in Journal Square, you don't have any sort of destination place today. It just doesn't exist. We're building a lot of residential housing without a core destination for a reason for somebody to go here and spend time here. A reasonable outcome of this is that if you have a show here on a regular basis and you're going to have 3,000 people here, people that are coming from outside of Jersey City will look for a place to have dinner, will look to have a place to drink after a show, or so to speak. And that's where entrepreneurs come in and economic activity come in. So I feel entirely comfortable that this will act as a further catalyst for the area, as will the museum. What? So the timing is that we've shortened the RFP process because we feel pretty comfortable that there's a lot of operators that are interested in it. So we don't feel like we're going to need to shop this around to the same extent that others have, and other theaters are feeling the stress that they're feeling. So 6 weeks for responses. We will expedite the review. Couple weeks on that front, and then we're going to start with drawings, engineer, architecture work, and get started right away with what we can. I mean, we're looking to move this forward pretty quickly. We have funding set aside already from dollars that we've had from previous capital funds and the county, thankfully, and so we're going to be looking to get this moving right away. I think we've been given to completion. What does some of them say? What's the timeline? 2 years. 2 years. 2 years till it's done.
Will this be on the June 24th council agenda?
The RFP is going out via the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency. Once the approval and the selection on who we partner is, that will come back to the City Council and for a vote. Is that correct? Similar to what we did last time, because it'll be a contract agreement.
Question for Colin. I remember when Mayor Fulop first came into office, you guys had a big fight about control over this theater.
Big.
I'm curious, huge. And I'm curious what changed, but why now?
What changed is, I think we both.
I think what changed is we both came to understand each other's position better and found out that if you worked it right, there wasn't a difference. What we've always wanted and known had to be in the theater were the major productions the mayor is talking about. There were a couple ways we could go about doing that. Our bottom line always was to get them there, but to preserve all the community involvement, even continuing to an extent volunteers. When the mayor first came into office, I don't think he fully understood how that would work and how that could be done. We had some problems. After the problems, we began to talk, and what we put together is the way to accomplish those two things that makes us all feel we're going to do what we have to do here. And as for now, why now? Because it just came together now. We reached the agreement, and rather than spend some more time, I mean, I'm 33 years into this. I don't want this to be like the cathedrals in Europe where I have to have children who will carry on the work. We've got to get it done. And I want to add one thing about, we were talking about the pandemic. You're right, that's a concern. But I need to point out, that we just said 2-year timeline to get this place done. If you go back to the pandemic, the Spanish flu, arguably that ended in 1919, I think, 1919, 1920. Within 2 or 3 years, I'd have to check the dates, what I judge to be the first movie palace, the Chicago Theater, a big 3,000 plus seat theater, was opened up. The arts and entertainment don't go away. The pandemic will. Facilities like this will be needed pretty soon. So I don't think it is wrong to be doing this now. I think it makes perfect sense. And one last plug I'll throw in. The mayor mentioned how a theater like this will generate and help support local restaurants. We're already doing that in the small scale. The Journal Square Lounge next door, new management. When we were doing shows here, they had more business. So the message is, the mayor's absolutely right. FOL has done it on a small scale. Now, together with a promoter, it's all going to happen on a bigger scale.
Steve, I just said one thing.
And what's changed? Go ahead. Do you want to say something, Bill?
I just want to say something on the timing of it. You know, just to understand, there's a likelihood that there's going to be more incentives provided on the government side to restart the economy, more dollars to put into invest, more dollars into brick and mortar. And having a project that's got the team together, the partnership together, the dollars together of a for-profit operator with the FOL city, puts the city in a position to go after those dollars. So now makes it a good time to get yourself poised to be able to get dollars that we believe probably are going to be available to restore buildings like this.
And look, what's different from now from 6 to 7 years ago is I think I'm 6 or 7 years older and understand this job a little bit more. If I could go back, I probably would have done it differently. I have a very, very clear vision on what I think this can be. And maybe the way I went about it 6 or 7 years ago, I could have done it differently. And I think that today, working closely with Colin, we're going to get to the same place, but at the same time, we're going to be able to recognize their objectives a little bit more and be more considerate to that. So, you go through this job a little bit and you'll learn every day, and I think this has been an exercise for me in that. So
following up on that.
I'd like to see some big comedy acts. I'd like to see the Dave Chappelles of the world. I'd like to see music acts. I don't think you could have the big stadium, so acoustic shows. But I don't think you're getting that. That's a sort of a situation here. But the goal is to be flexible and have really world-class acts that span all different types of genres, attract different ages, and attract different ethnicities. One of the things I touched on earlier is that's unique for us is that we live in the most diverse city in the world. So there's constituencies that are built in here as customers that other communities don't necessarily have. So, and there's an opportunity to make real money for that. So the operators recognize that as being a unique asset here. So you have a massive Indian American community here. So there's an opportunity on that front. There's a massive Filipino community here. So you have an opportunity on that. You have a massive Egyptian community here. So when you're thinking about kind of the entertainment that you could bring in, it's not only those traditional, what you see maybe repeating on Netflix, so to speak, or you could see on YouTube. You have a lot of opportunities here, and that's why I think this market is a little bit unique and why the operators view it as very unique outside of the aesthetics here. So I feel more optimistic than I ever have that we're going to get this thing done now because we're on the same page and because the operators have clearly indicated to us that they are excited about this.
One of the key pieces that blocked you on this war was the lease with the Friends of Loew.
Yeah.
That expired last year. So you have the clout to move in.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Clearly making an arrangement. You learned your lessons.
So I didn't want to go down that road, right? But,
yes, that happens to be accurate, right? The lease expired, so if the city wanted to go down the road that we did 6 or 7 years ago, legally we could have done that, okay? But as I said earlier, that is not the route that we want to go, and you live and you grow and you learn, and it was the best route whether we had the legal leverage or we didn't have the legal leverage to do it in partnership with Colin, okay? And so that's the way we're going, and I feel great about it, and I think Friends of the Lowews feels good about it, right? Yeah.
Friends of the Lowews will be public.
Investment of $40 million or so. What will be the direct return to the city?
Look, I don't think that, the honest answer is I don't think some of the investments we make, we understand that we're doing that and we're not going to make money on it. The VIA, we made an investment, we're not making any money on it. The Platt side building, the museum, we're going out and finding partners right now, having conversations with really national and international brand names. We are doing that right now as we speak, and we're not going to make any money on that. This, we're probably not really going to make any money on it at the end of the day, but the economic activity that it's going to stimulate in the environment of Journal Square and for the broader Jersey City narrative is worthwhile for us in an investment, and it's worth a lot more than $40 million. Okay? The city of Jersey City. Friends of the Lowews has had an agreement to manage this building. And even when they didn't have an agreement, they took it upon themselves to care for it and fight for it. So they've had a role in this building since the day it was saved in the 1980s. And they've organized a lot of people, and they've organized the community programming. And whenever you've seen larger programs come in here, which you have periodically, which has been difficult to do, that's really credit to Patty and Colin on that. So now we just want to take it to the next level. And Jersey City doesn't have anything like this. And truthfully, I don't think New Jersey has anything like this. You have the NJ Pack in Newark, but as Bill said, this is entirely different animal in the fact that this is history of 100 years we're approaching right now. And character and where it's located is literally 9 minutes from 34th Street in New York City. So, yeah, then we'll wrap it up after that.
I just want to say the greatest asset for this theater is right across the street. People don't have to take their cars to come here. They can get on the train in New York and come here. They can come from Newark. They can come from all from Western Jersey. That's the greatest asset. It's going to attract a lot of people from New York City to come here.
Okay. That's about. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you all coming. Looking forward to, I guess, the ribbon cutting in 2 years. We'll have you back here for that and the first show. All right. Thank you.